And now, like, nah, like I would never let myself cheat myself.
Man, you gotta work your ass off, especially when nobody's watching, when nobody even knows except you. When nobody knows except you, did you do the thing or not? Today I'm chatting with Brad Tavares. Brad's in the top 15. He's one of the top-ranked guys over at UFC. He got the second most wins, tied with my homie Derek Brunson, and legend Anderson Silva, tied with them for second most wins in 185-pound division history. And man, you had some amazing fights. You fought some of the toughest guys in your sport. 19 professional wins against some really tough big men. And man, thank you for taking the time to come chat with us and share a bit of your story. Me. So you're from Hawaii?
From Hawaii, from the Big Island.
Big Island?
From Hilo. So
I've been there.
Yep, kind of same place as BJ, but if we're looking at schools, we went to like rival schools. BJ went to Hilo. He's older than I am. We weren't in school at the same time. Mm-hmm. And then I went to Waikea High School. But I grew up in this little town called Volcano, which is about a mile away from Kilauea National Park.
Yeah, Volcanic National Park, yeah.
Really close to the actual volcano. And it's about, I would say, 30 minutes from the actual town, the Hilo town that, you know, everything is in. But
I actually know all the terrain. I didn't know which island you were from. I knew Hawaii.
Yep, Big Island.
Yeah, there's a Sheraton Hotel over in Kona. On all the black lava over there.
Yep.
And there's a Sheraton Hotel. I've stayed there many times. And you look out and they have the big mantas in the ocean, right in front of the hotel.
Yeah, we barely got sand on the Big Island.
Yeah.
All black lava rocks and black sand.
It's really my favorite island. If you go there once, then you go to Oahu, and you're a tourist and you go to Oahu. But I like Maui a lot. But it is my favorite place, and I'm not just saying that because we're here. I've been 10 times to Hawaii and I did the Napali Coast hike a few times. That I think Kapalua Trail, maybe they call it. So it's about 11 and a half miles each way. It's quite a hike.
See, you've done more than me, and I'm from there.
Well, I'm sure you have a few accomplishments or a few stories that I don't have either. But I know that terrain a little bit. I've been to. I might not know the name. I call it Volcanic National Park, but that might not be the proper name.
Yeah,
but
Kilauea
that's
National
how I
Park.
think of it,
That's the technical name, but everybody just calls it volcano. So like when people ask where I'm from, if we talk to people from Hawaii, like, well, so you know everything, so I can be specific with you. I'm from Volcano, but like. People, if somebody from Hawaii see me, they'll ask, oh, where are you from? Obviously, they know I'm from Hawaii, so they're asking probably like what island I'm from, right? Big Island. Oh, where? Like they might be from Big Island. Oh, where are you from? Oh, Hilo side. Oh, yeah, really? Oh, me too, whatever. Where are you from? Like where? Like, you just keep getting more specific.
Hilo side versus
Kona
like,
side. Oh, Volcano. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah. But I'm sure there's some other Hawaiian technical name that it's supposed to be called, but we just call it Volcano.
Was BJ one of the guys that, being from that island and being from, him being who he was, is it one of the guys that inspired you to get into MMA earlier? Or
yeah, definitely. Like coming from, so Big Island, geographically speaking, is obviously the biggest island in the main chain. But we're probably one of the smaller islands as far as, I don't know specifics to population, but we're not as busy.
140,000.
Yeah. There's not as much going on, like nightlife and restaurants and things like that. I feel like every year in Hilo, the hotels are constantly like battling to stay afloat. They're like almost claiming bankruptcy every year. And like there's one event a year that keeps them afloat. It's the Merry Monarch, the big hula festival or hula competition. But yeah, so being from such a small place and then having a superstar like BJ, I mean, definitely as a kid growing up, you're looking at that and it gives you that hope, like, okay, well, if he can do it, we're from the same place. He is who he is though, and you are who you are, but gives you that hope, like, oh, if he can do it, then I can do it. Because there's not a lot of, I feel like nowadays you're seeing more people, as far as like sports and like mainstream stuff become more successful being from the Big Island. But when I was growing up, there wasn't a whole bunch. There was BJ Penn pretty much. I can't even think of anybody else.
Do they do the Ironman tournament over there, I think?
Yep, Ironman is on the other side in Kona, the hot, freaking dry, dead side. But yep, Ironman is there. Ironman, Mary Monarch, some of the few big events. Maybe that's the only ones.
How did things get started for you over there? I know there's a bit of an MMA culture in Hawaii more than there is in some other places, but small population, but a higher density of guys that are interested in, jiu-jitsu, MMA type thing.
So it's funny. I talk about this when people ask. So growing up, and we say it like, when I say like TV, so American culture, when I was growing up, we just like, oh, the stuff we see on TV, right? But that's American culture, which, Hawaii is part of America, but culturally we're very different.
Yeah.
The Hawaiian culture, the local Hawaii culture is very different. But anyways, growing up on TV, you see like the jocks, right, are like in high school, oh, those are the popular kids. That's who people want to be like that's who people strive to be. Growing up where I'm from, people always looked up to what we call the scrappers, like people that can scrappers. So as a young, like being in intermediate, there was these kids right above us in high school, 10, 11, 12th grade, and then even right out of high school that could fight. And it's street fighting, but that's what we used to look up to. Like those were the cool guys. That's who we wanted to be like. Like we weren't so concerned about, like I played sports, I loved sports growing up, and I played sports, did well in sports, but still like we wanted to be known as like, oh, that's like the top scrapper right there. Like, that guy can scrap, So that's kind of how it started. Like you get into fights, and it's funny, some of my best friends, we met getting into a fight. Like you fight, and then, hey, you shake hands afterwards. And I feel like times have changed so much now. Like you see so much crazy things, and I guess it could have happened to us at that time. Like you get into a fight, you could be 14 years old, knock somebody out, he hits his head on the ground and coma and all these scary things. But I don't know, it just felt different back then. Like we used to just fight, shake it off, shake hands. We'd hang out after.
Go hang out on the beach.
Yeah. So.
Did you have one of those big trucks, the jacked up trucks with the big tires?
Not when my dad did. My dad did.
I knew you were one of your boys. Somebody
If we
did.
go downstairs right now, you guys will see my truck. It's exactly that. Yeah. But my dad had lifted Chevy. He had a bunch of different trucks, and my mom, like, my grandpa was a Ford guy. My mom Ford. I'm Ford. So. Yeah, but that's, how it is in Hawaii, lifted trucks.
When I think of Hawaii, I think about that. There's the boys on the beach, kind of the cool guys on the beach. They got a lifted truck might be a little mini truck, but got big tires and lifted up.
Lifted sounds, pounding the sounds, the stereo super loud. But
How did this turn into? So I get it. You were looking up to some of the boys who were scrappers or the tough guys on the island, and. How'd that turn into a profession or a career for you? That you've been extremely successful at what you've done, and you still got a lot of time left in your career if you want it.
So, got into a few fights here and there, growing up, and then I don't know, I was kind of good at it. I became one of those, like, not trying to toot my own horn, but I became one of those guys like, oh yeah, Brad, he can scrap. Became one of those guys. And then I went off to college. So right after I graduated, went off to college and made friends with Mikey, the Samoan kid, and I lived with him. And dude, we had the worst habits ever. We would go work out at 24 Hour Fitness every day, but then go eat Denny's right next door right after that. So workout meant nothing. But anyhow, I gained a lot of weight. So I was playing football, you want to be big or whatever, but I got past that. I got up to 240 pounds. I fight at 185 pounds. My normal walk-around weight is anywhere in between 200 and 210 pounds, just depending what's going on in the week. But I got all the way up to 240 pounds. Luckily for me, I hit it well in a shirt. Like, you couldn't really tell how big I was. Like, I looked kind of thick, but not like, people didn't realize like I was actually fat till I took off my shirt. I had to like suck it in, I was actually kind of fat, but that really like pushed me to, I was always into fighting, obviously. And I wanted to fight when I was younger. My mother would never let me. She was like, no, you play sports, baseball, football. Football is the most like roughest sport I could do growing up. I always wanted to box, kickbox, all that stuff. She would never let me. But yeah, so I needed to do something after I graduated because I was so big. I played football for 1 semester. It didn't work out. I moved back to Hawaii. And so I needed something to do, and that was training. So I started training, and that's kind of what prompted me. I needed to lose weight. I started training, and the guy we were training at his house, he was like, hey, you want to fight? I was like, sure. Signed me up for a fight, won. It was this thing called Got Skills, where it's like an introductory into MMA. You have headgear on, shin pads, and 16-ounce gloves. And then the first round is just kickboxing. The second round, they strip off your shin pads, and it's just boxing with takedowns. And in the third rounds, they strip off all your gear, and then you just grapple, starting from your feet. So I won that, and then he's like, hey, you want to fight MMA? I was like, sure. Got me a fight like a couple weeks later. I fought, won, first round knockout, and I was like, yeah. I was pretty good at it in the gym and was winning fights, and then started training with my team, MMA-D. And then my coach there, Brandon Wolf, he really like had it in his mind like what we needed to do. He was like, hey, 2 years, we'll train here in Hawaii, we'll beat everybody, capture all the belts that we can, and then we move to Vegas. Because at this time, this was like 2007, 2008. At that time, MMA was blowing up, but it wasn't what it was now. Yeah. There was only like a few big gyms, like Florida had one, I think Jackson's was still around, California had a few, and then there was Couture's, Randy's gym. And when I first got to Vegas, and even right before I first got to Vegas, man, everybody was at Couture's, everybody was at Randy's gym. Yeah. Vanderlei was there before he opened his own gym. At that time, Akiyama was there, Matt Brown was there, and then all our guys, Tyson Griffin, Mike Pyle, Jay Hiron, Martin Kaplan. I mean, just the who's who. You would walk in there and it was just murderer's row, like just, like all weight classes, small to big. And then when I moved to Vegas, it kind of, there was still a who's who, but not as much as it was then. But this was still like the Mecca, But within a few years, MMA got so big that gyms started popping up everywhere. And now it's like you can almost go to any like notable gym, not even just a real big gym, just like, okay, this guy has a solid gym. It's small. There's only a few fighters, but there'll be like a UFC fighter from that gym. Mm-hmm. So the sport has really grown, but that's how I got my start, Love fighting, got fat, needed to get in shape. Turns out I was good at it, and here I am, made a career out of it.
I just chatted with Randy Couture, 6-7 days ago, so shout out to Randy. I know you're watching. What up, buddy? And yeah, I know that gym was, a lot of people don't know this. Tito Ortiz is a buddy of mine, and Tito's trained with me, and we've done a few other things together. And, when Tito really made this poignant in my head, he said when he was champion, years ago, there wasn't like, these big MMA gyms. You couldn't go down to, Sanford or ATT or things like that. Shit didn't exist at the time. And Tito would say that he's living down in Huntington Beach and you have to drive, 3 hours round trip because of traffic. He had a kickboxing coach in LA that he wanted to work with. And he said, he'd have 3 hours of drive time a couple days a week to go work with that kickboxing coach. And, then a different coach and another coach and another coach. And so they didn't have these big powerhouse gyms like exist today. So is a different world. And, that changed the level of competition too. I'm sure that, I'm sure you could speak to that.
Oh, 100%. I feel like too, like these younger fighters. So for one, we're spoiled here in Vegas because everything is so centralized for us. For like when I first got out here, I would train at Couture's for all my like fight training, but then I was doing like my conditioning at a different gym that I had to drive to. I was doing my jiu-jitsu at Drysdale's, which I had to drive, further away to. So everything was kind of spaced out, and then over the years, everything kind of centralized to where now, and with the UFC Performance Institute, man, that thing is game changer. So now, and that's only like 4 or 5 minutes away from Couture's. So everything is super central for me, like I do everything. I do my strength and conditioning and recovery out of the PI, and sometimes we'll do training there, like we'll wrestle there. It's all our guys, but just for the mat space, we'll spar there at times or whatever. They have bags and this, that, whatever we need. But it's either there or at Couture's, you know, and they're very close. The California guys, I feel like, still gotta, you know, drive. Like, there's bigger gyms where they can get more done now. The sport has grown and evolved to where you can do more in-house. But I went out a few years ago on a training trip. We went to King's, and we would train at King's, and then we had to drive again. And, you know, California traffic is crazy. Mm-hmm. We had to drive to go do jiu-jitsu, and then, okay, done for the day. Train at King's in the morning, and then drive somewhere to go wrestle. And then, you know, same thing. So the whole week we're like still driving all around. And I'm like, dude, we're spoiled in Vegas. And all these younger fighters, especially the ones here, like, I don't think they realize how spoiled they are. You know, they get, because there's so much guys in our gym that train at the UFC, it's like they can go to the Performance Institute at any time, and they get to take advantage of a lot of the things, you know, that your training partner can take advantage of. So they're super, super spoiled, these guys. You know, like, I feel like they don't really know the grind that, you know, guys like myself and even the older generation guys like the Chucks and the Tito's, BJs, you know, had to put in to get to where they were, to get to where they are, where they were, you know. But
no, evolution, it's different, and it, you know, and it changes the skill set, the level of what's acceptable. That you know, imagine if you had the training, your current skill set, but you were fighting guys from a decade earlier.
Oh, yep.
That, you know, it's because you've had those advantages in training that some of the OG Hall of Fame guys didn't have. I think you'd agree with me that, you know, there's a lot of advantages to that. That if you were fighting guys from a decade or earlier that had those, you know, it was harder for them to go. There's no one place.
Yep.
You know, you having some amazing outcomes against them.
And even just the knowledge, you know, those guys did it for us. They made the mistakes for us. They were the guinea pigs for us. Like, if you look back or you talk to them and talk to them about how they used to train, the things they used to do to cut weight, the nutrition side of things, man, it has changed night and day. And it was those guys that made those mistakes that, you know, we're able to learn off of and learn from. You know, like, okay, let's not do that because that's gonna burn you out, or that's not the right way to do it. Yeah, the sport has just grown. It's crazy.
I'm in a very unique situation that I'm not a pro fighter. I'm 43. I'm a business guy. And I was interested in MMA. A few things that you said that reminded me of my own life a bit was, since I was a little kid, I wanted to be going to like boxing or karate or wrestling. My mom didn't want me to do any of that shit. And I was getting into a lot of trouble as a kid. And in her mind, she thought that was going to help me get in more trouble. Probably would have had the exact opposite effect. It's probably the truth. But she didn't know that. So I always had a curiosity about those things. And, you know, my dad was in prison a lot of my childhood. He had a 15-year sentence for cocaine trafficking, and my uncle. And so they were in the newspaper all the time. So kids would try to bully me or say something in school. So I was always getting into little scraps and fights. And I wasn't trying to be a tough guy per se, but this shit just happened so much that after a while, it's like, all right, and you just punch somebody first. When you see things were going that way, and it's like, all right. And so I had a lot of little violent circumstances, you know, in my house and in school and in the neighborhood, and I grew up around that sort of thing. And, you know, you get stabbed or get into different, you know, more than normal kid stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I always had some of those experiences in my head. I didn't start training, like, you know, real MMA training until last November, and I asked Jake Shields to help me with some stuff. I known him for a while. If you know, Paulie Malignaggi is a boxing champion. He's a 5-time champion in a couple weight divisions. So Paulie's been my main boxing coach. Jake's helped me tie things together. And then I had a unique circumstance that I know a ton of people from your sport. So, you know, I've had, you know, Chuck Liddell or Tito or, you know, 20 guys that you know, Frank Mir, Gilbert Burns, Andrei Arlovsky, so on, that come train with me, Hoist Gracie. And, you know, it is amazing, something that you mentioned, that I feel very grateful that to be able to learn things from, you know, from Chuck, from Hoist Gracie, from some of these guys that were, you know, the real pioneers of your sport. That these are tough guys, and, you know, there's a component to bravery if you think of what Hoist was doing in 30 years ago in the original UFC fights. You got to go fight 4 or 5 men in a night, and win.
Yep.
His first tournament, he had to beat 3 men to get the first belt and 4 men to win the second UFC tournament. And these guys, they didn't have, there weren't MMA gyms, there wasn't the internet where you could see these different training methods. They're showing up, they don't know who the they're fighting.
Yeah.
They don't know what this guy knows or doesn't know or how they're going to move necessarily. There's really an element of bravery to that is pretty amazing to think about.
Well, they were real fighters, and when I say that, like a lot of guys nowadays, they might be, the skill definitely has gone up, and there's still guys that have that, what I would say, like old school heart and mentality, but overall, I feel like a lot of the guys nowadays would not make it, back then, because if you think about what those guys were doing and putting themselves through and what they were putting themselves through for, they're probably only making a couple $100, here and there. Like, yeah, whatever, inflation, this and that, but at the end of the day, like still, they're only doing that for a few $100. A lot of them still have to work a full-time job and then train and then go fight and then go work, regardless if their nose is broken or eye cut. They still had to go to work on Monday, take care of their families. So I feel like the older generation, more so like all of, as a whole, they had more like heart and more of that warrior spirit. Like a lot of guys nowadays are not, they fight, but they're not fighters per se.
Yeah.
They're competitors. They're competitors.
It's more of a sport versus a real tough man.
And I think like if they'll do good in the ring, in the sport of fighting in MMA, but I'm not sure how that would fare if they had to, like if shit hit the fan and they had to, take care of business outside, if something, I don't know, something crazy happened. I don't know how that would go, but I know like the old school guys, like they'll be down, They're like, they fought bare knuckle, no weight classes, no holds bar, anything goes. It's like what you said, like, yeah, they gotta have some big balls, like Royce Gracie, to fight all the guys he fought and to do as good as he did, like that's crazy.
Yeah. Royce, he was just with me about 1 month ago. Actually, Royce was in this room with me 3 weeks ago, and I had Valentina was over for a while. She spent about 6 hours with us. We did an interview like this, and she did a talk with some of my clients, and Royce was around. So I was sitting right here at that table having dinner with Royce and Valentina and a couple other people, and then Carla Esparza was over a different day, and Royce spent the whole week with me. We trained for like 4 days, then he was over here with me for a few days. And just being around that guy, I have so much respect for Royce, and I'm 50% bigger than him. He weighs about 180. I weigh about 280, and I know you think 240 is fat. So I heard that, by the way, and I'm not going to forget that shit. So 240
is fat for me, I said.
But now, man, Royce I'm literally 100 pounds bigger than him, and now he put some rules in there. Royce likes a lot of rules, like, all right, you can't bench press me and toss me, you can't do this, you can't do that. But he put me in a lot of uncomfortable positions. He'd have me doing 20-minute rounds with him, and he just attacking you, and I was just a puddle of sweat, after 20 minutes on the timer. Yeah. And he's like, you can't stand up, you can't get away, you just have to defend yourself. And he'd be, he's after your arm, and you tuck your elbow down this way, and then you leave this one exposed, and he's over there, and you boom, 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 boom. And, he put a lot of pressure on me, and, I'm 12, 13 years younger than him. I'm 100 pounds, I'm stronger, I'm younger, and he put a lot of pressure on me. He was very uncomfortable, and he'd get me, many times, he'd get me caught up in something. So his skill set, the guy's in his 50s, and his skill set is still, he's an impressive man, I have a lot of respect for him.
That's the thing too about those jiu-jitsu guys, is like they keep, like the knowledge, like I feel like it's never ending. And if you look at jiu-jitsu, what it was in like Royce's time to like all the shit that they do now, like that they've come up with, all these different like this and that, and they have names for it all. And I'm sure it's the guy that did it first, but they have all these crazy chokes and like sweeps, and I'm like, dude, this shit is never ending. Yeah. Like it just keeps evolving.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Let's talk about Chuck for a second. I know you know Chuck well, and Chuck came over. We've done a few things together, some speaking events together that he's happy that he's been a part of. And Chuck came and trained with me for 3 days, and none of my training partners beat me up worse than Chuck did. But he told me a story about you're talking about the gritty, tough,
Yep.
old school guys that. I think in '99 he said that in the late '90s he said he had a fight in Brazil. There, 30 minutes, no break, so bare knuckle, basically no rules.
So basically, who dies first?
Yeah. So no break, basically no rules or very few rules. Bare knuckle fight. And he says he's down in Brazil. He doesn't speak Portuguese, And he says the guys are, they're getting together at the place where they're going to have the fight. So the day before, they're at the place, and he says his opponent's kind of, shoulder bumping him type thing and talking to him, talking shit to him. And he's like, bro, I don't speak your language.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to fight you, but we get paid tomorrow. He's like, tomorrow. We get paid if we can fight tomorrow. He said, let's not fight right now. Let's fight tomorrow so we get paid. We'll beat each other up tomorrow. But, it's an uncomfortable environment, to say the least. And you got to go, bare knuckle fight in a different continent. And, even travel is different. 20-something years later, there's, how many guys from Brazil? How many guys do I know? A lot.
Yeah.
But at that time, this is a different continent. There's, it wasn't... It'd be a scarier environment, You're going into enemy territory. That's there's a lot of question marks, and there's a lot of tough things back there.
They're crazy in Brazil too, dude. They don't fuck around. It's like we're blessed to be in this country. There's crazy shit happening, but there's crazier shit happening in other places.
Yeah.
So that is scary because I've heard stories like that. Like even in Japan back in like the Pride days, they had like Yakuza and shit that you were behind a lot of that. And I've heard stories of guys going over there like couldn't make weight or whatever, and they're like, no, you're not getting your passport until you make weight, or shit like that, like basically forcing them, like, no, like you're not, there's no way out, and you gotta do it. Like you're in Japan, you got these guys, like who knows what they're gonna do to you. So yeah, definitely crazier time. Chuck, I love Chuck. We started talking about this story. I share it with you guys. So I was on Ultimate Fighter, and Chuck was my coach. I think we were season 11, Chuck versus Tito. And I grew up, at this time I'm 21. I had just turned 22 right before we started filming. So I'm fresh. I'm 22 years old. I've been watching Chuck growing up, playing him in a video game. Huge fan of the guy, the Iceman. Can just love his style, sprawl and brawl, that's my type of style. Like this guy just wants to bang. Anyway, so I'm on Chuck's team, and it's our first training session, and I remember just being kind of fucking scared, like, oh, fuck, I gotta spar Chuck Liddell. He's gonna knock me out. Let's go. One of those. And then realizing, okay, no, he's actually controlled. He's actually like treating us teacher to student, not as like, you young pricks, I'm just gonna beat your ass. So anyway, I get comfortable with him and we're sparring one day, and I want to say it was a right hand. I could be wrong, but he drilled me with the hardest fucking right hand I ever, and it was so weird because I've been knocked out before. He didn't knock me unconscious. He just, I don't know, rattled my whole fucking brain and soul maybe. And
rattled my soul.
To the point where afterwards, okay, we finished the round. I was just fine. And I sat down and I just forgot everything that happened. So I'm sitting outside on a cage. Kyle Noak is next to me, and I'm like, bro, did we train already? He's like, what? I'm like, what time is it? Because, we would train twice a day. So I'm like, fucking just out of it, lost. I'm like, kind of coming back from a fucking dream. And I'm like, oh, bro. And then I kind of realized what is going on. I'm like, bro, I think fucking Chuck just standing knocked me out. And he's like, yeah. He's like, bro, he's like, don't say anything to anybody. I was like, I won't, you know, because at that point, like, if something like that happened, they'll probably take you out of the competition. So, of course, I didn't tell anybody. And then I don't know if it happened before. No, it happened after. Like a few days later, I fought Seth Baczynski, and we get into this wild exchange, and I end up slipping, and I'm like on fours getting up, and he fucking just soccer kicks me right across my chin, knocked me out. I didn't even know I got knocked out because when I hit the ground, like I was on my hands and knees, and then when I hit the ground, I popped right up, and then he's like somehow on the ground, and he's like, man, I'm sorry, and I'm like, for what? And I fucking just walk back to my corner, and I'm kind of like all out of it. But yeah, I was definitely got probably concussed from Chuck, and then a few days later got soccer kick, concussed again. I'm sure of it. So they sent me to get a CT scan, and they're like, "Oh no, everything is good." I'm like, "Cool, as long as I can still fight." But definitely bell rung.
When Chuck was with me, I don't know, 3-4 months ago, we were training, and you know, Chuck's great. You know his skill set. He's known to be a great striker, and I'm not. Yeah, I'm an okay striker, but I'm not going to fucking spar with Chuck Liddell. It's not going to look good, you know. Nothing good's going to happen. And so we were mostly working on, you know, wrestling, grappling type stuff. And, you know, Chuck's early foundation was in wrestling, and he has a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. So you know, he'd say himself that a lot of those skills he used, that he wants to stand up and bang, and he's a hard guy to take down, you know. He wants to stand up and fight. So a lot of the skills he has from, you know, grappling is to, you know, to not get taken down or to be able to stand up quickly if he is taken down. And, you know, a thing that I was doing a lot, you know, during that month is I'd start off and, you know, just lay on my back or lay on the ground in a shitty position, and when somebody already, you know, controlling me, and then to fight to get out of it and be able to get back up. And so Chuck and I did that, you know, countless times, and for 11, 12 hours together over 3 days. And I was very proud of myself that, you know, my cardio is a little better now, but it was, at that time, it'd take all my energy that sometimes I just couldn't get up. And, you know, sometimes I could get up, but I was so exhausted by the time I'd get back on my feet to get Chuck off of me and, you know, to be able to create enough space to get back on my feet. I was so exhausted that he'd come to grab me and just toss me on the ground again, you know? And I'm like, fuck. And, yeah, so you feel, for me being a rookie at this, you know, I felt very proud. I'm like, you know, hey, I got off the ground with you know, Chuck pressuring me, and he's weighing 245 right now, you know, so he's still very strong, and, you know, veiny arms and very veiny legs, and he's weighing 245 and put a lot of pressure on you. And I'm proud of myself to get up, but then, you know, 10 seconds later, back on the ground. Yeah, I had bruises everywhere, and but I learned a lot. It was it really was great for my confidence that there was a little click in my head in my development there, that I'm like, all right, that if I can do this with him, that like a normal guy can't hold me down. Like no way, you know.
You know what surprised me the most about him? So when you watch Chuck fight, especially in his prime, right? You see how he fights. Like, he just looks like he comes from, you forget he's a wrestler, but then you're like, oh, that's why he was so hard to take down, you know, he wrestles. But you don't ever think about it, right? Like, more so you see Tito and you're like, oh yeah, wrestler. Tito's a wrestler. Take you down, ground and pound, dig your grave after. Chuck Liddell, you're like, bro, this guy's a fucking brawler. Like, nah, he didn't even come from any traditional martial art. Like, he just fucking, like, you know, because he swings a lot of wide punches, but they're very accurate. So you just think, like, okay, Chuck, like, you have this picture of who Chuck Liddell is or what he does. So when we were on The Ultimate Fighter, obviously he's our coach, so he's teaching us, and he's showing us all this fucking shit that I'm like, dude, you don't ever do that. Like, you know, like spinning back kicks and shit. And then he's telling us, he's like, yeah, spinning back, I've never ever seen him throw a freaking spinning back kick or hit anybody with a spinning back kick. Yeah, like, I don't think I've ever seen him throw one in a fight. But he's like, this is one of the things he's showing us. So I'm like, no way. And then so he's like, yeah, he's like, you know, like, my favorite, he told me specifically, he told us, he's like, yeah, my favorite time to hit him is up close. He's like, I do this little turn and it's a jump. Like, it's not a long spinning back kick. It's like a kind of like just a little jump and a little, like a donkey kick, right? And he's like, yeah, I do that, this and that. I'm like, okay, so we're practicing these things, whatever. It's not really for most people, you know, spinning back kicks take work and time, and, some effort to get down. But I'm like, in my head, I'm like, Chuck, don't do this shit. So anyway, we're sparring one day, and I think he threw like a 1-2, and I evaded. I pulled on it, got away from it, slipped it, and I came right back, like trying to follow it, right? Like that's what you're supposed to do, slip a punch, then follow it back. And I came right back, and he fucking does this jumping, spinning, little short, spinning back kick, hit me right in the gut. And at first, I'm like, nothing. Like, he hit me, I'm like, oh, okay, I got abs. Ugh. And then it's that liver shot. It took like a few seconds. Dude, shut me down. I could not believe it. I was more impressed, like not with the shot itself, but just that he was telling us about it, and that he fucking like like, that he does that shit. You know what I mean? You just never do see him do it in fights because he's so successful just knocking dudes out. But yeah, it's one of those things. Like I would never in a million years, until you get to know him, like expect him to do something like that. And then he taught us, and then fucking dropped me with it. But yeah, that guy's amazing.
There's a lot of layers of skills there. You had great wrestling foundation, and then good jiu-jitsu foundation, and then a lot of the kickboxing and karate.
Yep.
So I totally get what you're saying. The stereotype from the public of like this guy's just a reckless brawler.
Yes, exactly.
But there's a lot of skills underneath that perception that let him do the things that he did.
No, yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like reckless brawling. But
even that overhand, you think a lot of times is like, it looks like he's shooting for a single leg sometimes, and then it has that overhand right that he drops on people that it's been effective for him.
Yeah, definitely.
We just lost half of my business audience talking about nuanced spinning back kick and liver kick.
It's all right though. The MMA side guys jumped in. They're like,
they loved it. Yeah. That liver kick. I'm left-handed, so I think about that a lot. And my legs are very, very strong. So I practice that liver kick so many goddamn times. You see what my shin looks like even right now, with all the little scars and marks. I hope to God, for someone else's sake, that I never land that on somebody. I hope nobody ever puts me in a position to do that. But I practice that so many times now for, that kick from that side that I think somebody'd have a really tough time with that. So I think about that one a lot. What's it feel like when you get a good liver kick, by the way? Or a good punch in the liver?
You just, at first, nothing. You think you're okay. And then it's a delayed reaction. It's weird. It's fucking, you eat it and you're like, oh, okay, I'm good. And then you try to take a step forward, and then you just shut down. It's like it's weird. It's like your core just like is getting sucked in, and you're like, oh, I had to take a knee. Like I couldn't even stand, Like sometimes when I get hit in the bread basket and I can't breathe, I can still get away with that. It's something that, not that we practice, but it's something that I do. Like if somebody hits me with a really good body shot and I can't breathe, but the liver, I think I've been dropped with a liver shot like twice in my life. Once was from Chuck Liddell, and the first time was from my friend's older brother in high school. He was like, oh, we were boxing. He's like, you guys want to box? And we're 14, 15, and he's quite a bit older. He was probably like early 20s. So he's a man, we're boys. And he's like, oh, you guys want to box? And I'm like, yeah, I'll fucking box with you. And I thought this was a good idea. I was like, no headshots, body shots only. Cause he's a bad dude. He's like, okay. So like we're sparring, and dude, he just fucking smoked me to the liver. And same thing happened. I thought I was okay. I ate it. I was like, ugh. And then I went to like throw a punch, and I had to take a knee. I was like, fuck. Yeah, it's not a good feeling.
Let's think about your career specifically. That you went through Ultimate Fighter with Chuck as a coach. Did well there, obviously. Even one of the top ranked guys at UFC in the top 15, which are those coveted spots that people dream of being in one of those ranked fighters, one of those top guys at UFC. And what's that journey like, man? When was your Ultimate Fighter? That's 10-ish years ago. How long is that?
2010.
Yeah, so about 12 years ago.
12 years.
So you spent a lot of time in the UFC. You had some of the number two, tied for number two with most fights at 185 pounds. What are the highlights or lowlights or some of the adventures that you went through?
Well, like it's crazy. Like when I look back at it, like I've been in the UFC for literally like a third of my lifetime, right? I'm 34 now. I've been there for 12 years. So when I started in the UFC, or when I got into the Ultimate Fighter, I was only 4 or 5-0. Very green. Like I said, I was just a scrapper. I don't come from these traditional backgrounds that a lot of these guys do. I don't have that wrestling pedigree. I never wrestled in high school. I don't come from a boxing or a kickboxing or jiu-jitsu. I just started fighting. Like, I'm a street fighter. That's my background. I was fighting, and then I was like, oh, let's try it, to actually fight, like in the ring, train for it. And it was funny because like my first fight, I remembered I was probably the most nervous I've ever been. And prior to that, I've been in like fights with bigger guys, more guys, like outnumbered, and haven't gave a fuck. I was like, yeah, let's go. Like you don't even think about it. But then here I am training for a fight with a human that is of equal size to me. We're at the same weight. We had time to prepare for this, and I'm just a nervous wreck. Luckily, that was just that first fight that I got it out of the way then. But yeah, so it's weird. Like, it's been like a long and short road. Like, I feel like that was yesterday, but then when I think about it, I'm like, oh, that was a fucking long time ago. I've been in the UFC for 12 years already. I got over 20 fights, I'm like one of the most veteran guys. I still remember being like the young guy, being 21 years old and training with these guys. Like, I think I was the youngest guy in Ultimate Fighter, and the oldest guy there was like my age now. So like, that's like crazy to put into perspective, like I was 21, 22, and the oldest guy was whatever, 32, 33, maybe 34. We were there at the same time. That journey in itself was funny because back then, that was like one of the best times of my life. Responsibility free, don't have to worry about a damn thing, literally. Like, you don't have to worry about anything. You take care of your own stuff, like wash your own dishes, wash your own clothes. Nobody's gonna do that for you. But as far as everything else, like if you wanted anything, needed anything, you write it down on a piece of paper and magically it's there the next day, to get you anything you need. Then all we had to do was train. We didn't have to worry about girlfriends or anything. Some people were going crazy in there, like they couldn't do it, they hated it. And now that I have my own kids and my own family, now I get it, that side of things. I'm like, yeah, if I was those guys, the 30-something-year-old guys, with a fucking 21, 22-year-old me in there, yeah, I'd probably be, couldn't handle it either. But being on the other side of things, like when I actually was in there, I loved it. One of the best times of my life. And then coming out of that and then fighting in the UFC, my most memorable fight to me, and it's because I feel like everything like really hit me for that fight, was when I fought in the Ultimate Fighter, and then your first like official UFC fight where they decide if you're awarded a contract is on the Ultimate Fighter finale. And I fought Seth Baczynski, and we rematched the guy that soccer kicked me. I beat him. And it wasn't even after that fight that it like everything set in. It was the next fight. I fought Phil Baroni, another guy I had been watching for years, like guy that I'm like, dude, the New York badass. So it was cool to be fighting these guys that I looked up to. But walking out in the MGM and just that sound system, the bigger arena, and if you ever been to a Vegas card, the early prelims, they're always dead, but still there was way more people there than had been at any of my previous fights. I used to fight in little gyms and stuff coming from Hawaii. I fought in the Blaisdell once, which was amazing, but I've never fought in a venue like that up until that point. So walking out, hearing my song play, and luckily I got to walk past my friends and family, and just seeing all those people and how big the venue was, then it really hit me. And then the way that fight went, I knocked Phil out. So that was like one of my most memorable fights to me. It's just, I think it was the moment I was in, like all of my hard work, coming to fruition there, like paying off. And then I've been working hard ever since. And, 12 years later, I'm still here, still in the UFC. I've been ranked in the top 15, top 10 for a long time. I can't even, it's one of those stats I'd have to go look up. But yeah.
What are your goals, where you're at in your career right now? How are you looking at things, and what are your goals? You had some real battles with, a couple current champion Israel Adesanya. So you fought him in a main event, yeah?
Yep. We went 5 rounds.
Robert Whitaker is another extremely talented former champion that you had a real battle with.
Romero, so I fought the who's who, and unfortunately I've come up short there. But it's one of those things, like, I know how good I am and I know what I'm capable of. So it's definitely like, the goal has always been the same, like, to just keep chasing the top and to just keep winning. And I've gone on those streaks, 4, 5, 6 fight win streak, and then I've dropped 1 or 2, and then done it again, and then I've dropped 1 or 2, and then I was just on a 2 fight win streak, and then this last fight, this last fight was it was a great fight, it was a war. But the first round we went out there, and everything he threw at me, like, I seen everything, I felt everything. I just, like, felt totally in control, the wrestling side of things, the ground side of things. And going back to the corner in between rounds, I was like, I'm not the type of person to let off the gas, but in my head I was like, oh man, like, I've fought so many times that I know when I got this, I'm like, oh, I got this. Like, he has nothing for me. He's hit me, he's thrown stuff, and I've been able to see it coming. But second round, he did exactly what he needed to do. First off, he ended up opening a cut over my eye, which blurred the shit out of my vision. And again, not taking nothing away from the guy, because that's a fight, and that's what happens in fights. That's the type of things that are gonna happen, and it happens. That's his job to do, and he did his job. But yeah, I opened up the cut, screwed my vision, and then he ended up catching me with a knee, broke my nose, and that kind of just f***ed my breathing. Like I said, that was the first time that I knowingly broke my nose and had just blood just dripping like that, and I couldn't, like, I just had blood leaking out my nose and, like, in my throat. It was a pain in the ass, but yeah, so he ended up pulling it out. So it's now, okay, I gotta start that over again, but I'm no stranger to it. I've been there before. Like I said, I know how good I am. I know I can compete with these guys. I do it every day, competing with some of the best guys. We have really good guys in our gym, and especially in my division. It's funny because years ago when I first came out here, I was like the only 85er. Everybody was either way bigger or not. I wouldn't say way smaller. There was a bunch of 7-years at one time, but there was no, like, other 85ers. And now when you come into our gym, we have the load of 85ers, and all of them are in the UFC. So it's great. We got Sean Strickland, we got Chris Curtis, Punahele Soriano, Ty Guerder, like, the list goes on. And these are just all 85ers in the UFC. So it's like, it just, iron sharpens iron, So
Randy says that all the time.
Yeah, no, it really does. And for me, it's one of those things, because I see people, like, it's one thing to come to the gym and just train every day and put in the work. Like, some people lose that, and then for sure, like, all right, at that point you should be done. But you can still do that. I still do that, and I think, keep an open mind. Like, I still want to learn and grow. Like, I still want to learn these new things. I still believe that I can become a better version of myself. You know what I mean? Like, I see a lot of people who come to a point where they've been doing this so long, and then they're done. Like, they're over learning. They don't think that anybody can show them anything new, or they're not open to it, or they're not trying to evolve from their current form, Whereas I know there's a lot that I can work on, a lot that I can do better. And that's one thing I always say this, it's very cliche. You win some, you learn some. But I really do believe that. Like, right after the fight finished, I just, like, get so frustrated with myself and things, like, I'm kind of like, you know what, I can do this better next time around. I can do that better. So, I mean, I guess for me, I've always used the losses as, to me, a loss lights way more of a fire up my ass than a win. Like, I love winning. I hate losing, and maybe that's what it is. Like, the losses is like, dude, you need to do this better, or that better, or do more of this, or do more of that.
Royce Gracie's told me, I've heard him say this several times, that his father would tell him that, you beat your opponent, and you don't need to celebrate publicly or have a spectacle in the ring. He says that's your job. You're supposed to beat. That's what was supposed to happen.
Act like you've been there before.
So if you beat your opponent and you trained for that, you earned that. It shouldn't be a celebration that's like you're surprised, or it shouldn't be an insult to the other person.
Yep.
That, the other person is a very talented, hardworking person too, or they wouldn't be there.
Yep.
So his father taught him to be very respectful about that, or have an even mood about it. And but so, if you lose something, you got to be thinking, well, what went wrong in my training? What did I fail to do in my preparation that I allowed this opening, to happen?
Yep.
So that stuck in my head that way. That then about the continuous learning thing that you said, like, in the area that I have the greatest expertise is in business and stock market, entrepreneurship, real estate. That's what I spent my life doing. And MMA is I hate to say it's just a hobby, but compared to your skill set or the way that you spent your life, you just say I'm a chubby old business guy that made that a hobby. But I'm training 50, 60 hours a month with top professionals, and I'm not good at having just hobbies. So anything I do, I have an obsessive personality that I'm going to do a lot of it and try to do it very well. But I think a thought that came to mind while you were saying that was, if you think you know everything already, it's hard to learn something new.
Yep.
And I learn new things all the time. And I'm 43. I plan on learning new things until I'm dead.
Yeah.
And something that was very inspirational to me, that I seen Warren Buffett right now is in his early 90s. And Warren was at about age 86. I seen a video clip where he was saying that he thinks, at 86 years old, in different times being the richest man in the world, he says he thinks he understands about 2% of, he knows about 2% of what there is to know about business. And I spent 9 years in university. I'm a high school dropout originally, so I came from that type of background. Later on, I spent 9 years in universities. I went to the #1 business school in our country, and for graduate school. And with my fancy graduate degree, and I made my first money before you were alive, literally. I was 7, 8 years old, doing little entrepreneurial shit, making a little money. If Warren Buffett is 50 years older than me, and he knows 2%, then maybe I know 1% of what there is to know about business.
Yeah.
I think he knows a lot of things that I don't know yet, and it's hard to. If I go look at what a normal person can't balance their bank account, or they're super f***ed,
Yep.
So, but there's a lot of things for me to learn. And, another thing that I find inspirational is, Jake Shields is a guy that both of us know. And, Jake's a very good friend of mine. I love Jake. He's been my main coach to helps me tie all the pieces together. When he's hanging around my house for, a few days at a time, what he does in his spare time? He'll be watching a MMA video or watching a jiu-jitsu something on his laptop.
Yep.
So he's 43 too. He's my age.
Yep.
He's 43. He's still learning things about jiu-jitsu.
And that's crazy because he's not very he still competes here and there, but he's not in the competition scene. You know what I mean? He doesn't need to be doing that, but he's still doing it.
I think you'd agree. He's very well respected as one of the best jiu-jitsu guys of his era,
Yep.
and still an extremely high level jiu-jitsu guy.
Yep.
And he's still learning things.
Yeah, and that's how that's, you look at some of the greatest guys, and that's how they are. They just learn and evolve. In recent times, one of the guys that I seen that just made a leap like that, and I was like, wow, dude, he fucking something, he changed something, or not changed something, but is Alexander Volkanovski. He's good, right? Very close fight with Max, the first fight. I thought, my personal opinion, that he lost the second fight with Max. And he's a good fighter, but he didn't look as great as he has the last few fights. And the last few fights, he's looked great. He suits his name now. That's his name, Alexander the Great Volkanovski, right? When he fought Ortega, I thought that he would. I didn't think Ortega would give him as much problems as he did. Almost finish him a few times, and then that showed his champion heart, to get out of those submissions. But then in between that fight, going into the Korean Zombie fight, dude, he just looked like a fucking new level. It was just, I was just like, wow. I was amazed. I was like, wow, And then when he fought Max again, he looked great again, Yeah. I'm like, dude, this guy, you can tell, a lot of times you see guys rise to that level, and And then it's about like kind of like GSP or like Woodley. You know how they look so great getting there, but then they get there and then they gotta just like basically protect that, right? And they look different. And I'm not throwing any shade on those guys. They did what they had to do, and I would much rather, who gives a shit what critics say, and protect my belt and take home that paycheck and have that dub than not, right? But then you look at Volkanovski, is like, boom, he got there and now he's like fucking leveling up every time. I'm like, that shit is just impressive. So he's like, he made it to the champion and he's like got fucking better. So I don't know, it's just super impressive to me.
20 something and one, his record is
Yeah.
better than 20 and one,
Yeah.
21,
Yep.
22 and one.
Yep.
You know, something you made me think of is I had a chat with Riddick Bowe a year ago, and you know, Riddick Bowe was maybe the most famous boxer in the 90s or for a period of
Yep.
time, and you know, heavyweight champion. I believe the first person, or at least the first heavyweight that had all 4 belts over time. And something that he told me that, and I have nothing but respect for the guy, I said nothing negative to say whatsoever, but something that he told me that really stuck in my head is that he had it in his head for a long time, like, I'm going to be the champ, I'm going to be the champ, I'm going to be the champ. And he didn't hold on to those belts for too long.
Yeah.
He didn't have it in his head, I'm going to stay the champ.
I'm going to stay the champ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very interesting, that there's a psychology lesson that I took from him that, you know, I'm not one of these woo-woo guys at all, but just as a practical thing, if you're programming your brain to say, I'm going to attain a certain level, that's different than I'm going to attain that and maintain it and you know, keep growing that skill set, like a Volkanovski or Kamaru Usman, or a guy that's Adesanya, a guy that's, you know, continuing to, you know, represent and, you know, build their skill set and represent it at a, you know, really extraordinarily high level, you know.
Kamaru is another one. Like, he's definitely, you know, I think he moved over there with Trevor Whitman and Justin Gaethje and them, and his striking became much better. And he's one of those two that, you know, he's leveled up. But just the way that Volkanovski became, like Kamaru, like, again, not taking anything away from either of those guys. I love both of them, and Kamaru, you know, he's a great champion, great fighter. But like, he took an aspect of his game and made it better. But Volkanovski, I don't know, it's just something different. Like, he became, like, not just one aspect, like, he just became better. Like, it's like, it reminds me of like in Dragon Ball Z, as nerdy as that is. Like, it's like when they find that new level, you know, like, oh, Super Saiyan, then Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan God. Like, he like just leveled up like that, you know, like he was at that level and it just took it up to a whole new level. Like, it's crazy. Like, after seeing him fight, like I said, like, I'm from Hawaii, I'm a friend of Max, I'm a fucking ride with him always. And again, I thought that Max beat him in that second fight. But after and Max has looked great too since, you know, like how he looked against Cater and Yair. Like, he's looked great. But I knew that he was going to give Max trouble. I was still rooting for Max and thought that Max would win that fight, and would pull it out. But I knew after seeing that Korean Zombie fight that he would give Max trouble. I knew it was going to be a different fight than the first 2 fights. Mm-hmm. The first 2 fights were very close. And this one was very decisive. You know, Volkanovski clearly won. So yeah, it's just like, you could tell, like, seeing that jump. And that's inspiring to me, you know, to see a guy like Volkanovski, you know, he's close in age to me. I think he's a year or 2 younger than I am, but makes it to that champ level and just keeps leveling up. Like, that shit just gets you going, like, damn.
You know, something that came to mind is I spent a bit of time with Usman in the past, and you know, something he said to me about his early life in college wrestling. He said that he'd win a fight, lose a fight, win a couple, lose a couple, and he's getting frustrated. And he said he's doing everything that the coach told him to do. He's doing everything that the team does. And he said at one time he goes and has a conversation with his coach. He's like, you know, maybe this isn't for me. That, you know, I'm doing fine. I'm doing what the other guys are doing. That I win a couple, lose one, win one, lose one, and you know, maybe I'm not that good. And he says his coach says to him, like, you know, if you do all the same training that all the other guys are doing, why would you expect to have a better outcome? That you have to be doing more than them. You have to, that's the basic level, essentially, the way I interpreted that. That's the base level of what's required to be on the team. But if you want to stand out and be exceptional or extraordinary, you're going to have to do more. And he took that to heart, and you see what the results look like years later. Did you have a moment like that in your life where, early on, where you're thinking like, man, I don't know if this is for me, and then you kind of, doubled down or made that commitment that like, man, I'm going to do this.
So my moment like that came kind of early on before fighting. And I think I just had this conversation with my father-in-law, and I kind of started thinking about it. I think it's from growing up. I always played on shitty teams, sports, baseball team, football team. My high school football team, we weren't the greatest. So I got used to disappointment and losing. Like, that's what team sports is great for kids. Like, even if they're not athletes, I still believe people should put their kids into team sports because, one, it teaches them how to communicate, work as a team, take that instruction, and then also can lose. Like, you barely have a kids program that is just undefeated the whole time, right? So it teaches people how to lose, because a lot of times you have these one-offs that do individual sports and they be so great, and then they can lose later in life, and then they're depressed and they want to commit suicide. And it's like, dude, you lost. Like, that happens in life. Losing happens in life. It maybe happens more than you win sometimes, but it's part of life. But I was always on these shitty teams, and I remember we were playing one night, and I forget who exactly we were playing against, but I remember we were down. And I was always the type of guy, like, I don't care if we're down. I'm still going to play hard every play. And I'm still going to, try to take guys' heads off. I played linebacker in high school. So I was like, I'm still going to try to kill guys. Even though we're down, who cares? Just at least we can get some fun out of killing guys, like keep playing, play
That's
hard.
The quote of the day.
Yeah. But I remember like we were on offense, and I remember looking over at the bench and seeing a bunch of my teammates and just head hanging, like ready to go home already, like ready for it to be over. I'm like looking at them, I'm like, bro, what the fuck? And I'm trying to get them fired up. Like, bro, like get the fuck up, like cheer your teammate on. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, the game is not over. Like, yeah, we're losing, and I didn't say this out loud, but we're probably gonna lose. But don't fucking act like that, like hold your head high. And I just remember still seeing them like moping and shit. And I just remember telling myself like, like maybe I should, and I need to do something that I'm not reliant on my other teammates and their work ethic and whatever. And I'm one of those guys, like I'm about effort. Like, I don't care if you're super shitty. Like, not everybody's a great athlete or a good athlete, but as long as you give that effort, like you can play as hard as you can, like that makes me happy, like at least you're trying. But I remember saying to myself, like, maybe I need to do something, or I'm gonna do something that I'm not relying on anybody. And then, like, that's not why I chose MMA or found MMA or whatever, but I think subconsciously in there somewhere, that's what led me there, and granted, MMA is individual team sport, like you're out in the cage by yourself, but you still need all your teammates and your coaches and all of that. But once the cage door closes, it's just you in there. Like nobody could give up on me except me, right? Like I'm not like, if I'm feeling tired, I don't have to worry about Jim and not pulling his weight or doing his job. Like, it's only me. It's me and only me. Like, if I'm tired or hurt or whatever it is, like only I can let myself down. And that's one of those things I'm like, fuck it. Like, I might, the outcome might not be what I wanted, but I know effort wise, I didn't let myself down. I didn't fucking quit on myself, and I never will. So that was like kind of that for me. Is like growing up and just being on those shitty teams led me to, because when I think about it too, like I'm a hard worker now, but when I think about it, I wasn't always as hard of a worker as I could have been. Like, I remember times being lazy during football conditioning and just being like, I don't want to do this, like looking for a damn way out of it. And now, like, nah, like I would never let myself cheat myself. So I did evolve there.
I love what you just said. That all of that was great, but that last few seconds, like I had that earlier in life, people that say shit to you like, oh, you're only cheating yourself, or if you don't really give a full effort. And I didn't understand some of that when I was, like a teenage kid. I didn't understand some of that. I had the worst role models. I had a lot of negative role models that, like you'd look around the environment and be like, all right, I'm not going to be a drug addict. I'm not going to be an alcoholic. I'm not going to do, just terrible shit things, So I had some role models like that even that helps you to avoid some bad things. But I didn't have people that were really doing well around me. I had to go find that, and through my 20s, 30s, I had to earn my spot around those people. And you find a better mentor and earn your spot, and, deserve to have, a better mentor and a better peer group over time,
Yep.
But I think about that all the time of like, clients that ask me, all sorts of things, and my clients are great people, and they're people that are. I don't just say that shit. I don't like most people. Most people watching this video, I wouldn't like you. I don't want to spend time with you. You're not qualified to be my client. You'd never be accepted in one of my programs. But the 5% of them that are serious and want to go do something, a normal person can't come to your gym and hang because they just do normal people shit. They wouldn't be allowed there over time. They'd be like, "What are you doing here? Like, get the fuck out. What are you doing here?" And it's the same thing. The clients that come to see me are people that they're already doing well at something, but they know they could do way better in their finances, and they're serious and they want to. They don't want to make 80 grand at their bullshit job, that pretending to do some shit that they hate, pretending that it's important to do some shit they hate doing every day. So the people that come to see me, I'm being a little long-winded on this, but the people that come to see me, people that they're already doing well, but they know they could do a lot better.
Yep.
And they want that pressure, they want me to help them with that. And then they come and ask me, like, what are some of the key things that are going to make them successful? And I'm like, man, you gotta work your ass off, especially when nobody's watching, when nobody even knows except you. When nobody knows except you, did you do the thing or not? If you can't do the homework in my programs, if you can't spend 20 hours a week to build, multiple $1 million net worth, like, you can't do 20 hours a week and you're going to be rich? Like, no, you're not. Like, could you train a couple hours a week and, expect to have the outcomes that you've had? Be like, no, that's not what it is,
Yep.
So I've had that thought in my head many times that I'm not really I don't need people to cheer for me to go do hard things by myself,
Yep.
I don't need a lot of emotional support or cheerleader type shit.
Yep.
I just be like, all right, you set a goal, and probably a lot of that. Henry Cejudo and I had a chat like this. One of my events, he was a speaker there, and he made a comment like, it's a lonely journey. Getting to the top of something is a lonely journey. But when you're the champ, everybody wants to drink champagne and spend time with you. You're not lonely once you get there.
Yeah.
But doing those things, that day-to-day grind by yourself, can be lonely sometimes. It could be emotionally difficult sometimes. And it really separates a lot of people that probably had a natural talent that they could have done extremely well, but they didn't have that emotional fortitude to be like you were. The guys on the bench moping around. What are you doing? Get up, pull it together. Like, if you have that toughness psychologically, or that that desire to win or desire to do better, I don't necessarily want to. I don't have like a mindset like I need to conquer my enemy or kill my enemy. Sometimes I do, but mostly I'm just like, I want to do the best that I can do.
Yeah, you have that competitive nature in there, and that's to me what it stems from, is because when I think about it, when I look at that, I'm like, okay, how did I get let's put myself back on that field in that game. Like, how did I get to be that person right there? Because my dad never used to go tell me that. Like, he taught me things, but not that, like, and my mom never really, my mom always, taught me like certain stuff to that extent, but not like, you gotta work hard, like, like in sports specifically. So like, how did I get there versus like those guys? And then when I think about it, it's just that competitive nature, like, I want to fucking win. Like, I don't want to lose. So I'm going to keep trying everything. Like there's guys that they're okay with fucking like losing, like, and you have to be okay with losing a little bit, but like, like, I don't want you to go
Don't make it a
fucking-
lifestyle.
Yeah, don't like think that you got to go kill yourself for it. Like, oh, I lost, my life is over. Nah, your life is not over. But that loss should fucking eat away at you a little bit inside. That should like fucking motivate you, like, to not feel that again. And I think that's what it's from, just that competitive nature.
Something else you touched on I thought was very smart and interesting was, it's good to learn how to lose, especially if you're a kid. A lot better to learn things then than to do that as an adult, to have hard losses in your 20s, 30s, 40s. A lot better to do that as a kid and have that resilience of, hey, not every damn thing is easy. And I think that a lot of the opportunities that maybe people our age and older grew up with, that they're taking that away from kids today, where everybody gets a trophy for showing up and doing not much.
Participation trophies.
That's terrible. I think that's a terrible culture.
I already told my daughter. She's only 4 years old. We were at a soccer game today, and I've told her in the past, like, she didn't even know what a participation trophy is, and I'm trying to explain it to her, and then I'm telling her, like, like, at a certain age, like when they're really young, yeah, like you need to reward them, right? But like as they get older, like I don't want them getting rewarded for like, don't
17th
reward
place.
Yeah, don't reward my kid for losing. No, we're gonna work harder. And it's funny because I incentivize the shit out of my daughter. So like I'll tell her like, okay, like today, like I said, effort. I'm all about effort. So I'm like, okay, today if you play hard, we'll go get Yogurtland after. Like that's okay, that's the first tier. But if you score a goal today, I'll take you to the store right now. We'll go buy any toy that you want. Okay. And then like she's kind of like doesn't even really understand the full concept of it yet. Cause like she'll be like, Daddy, did I play good? Yes, you did. Can we go get a toy? Like, no, you didn't score a goal. Like we can go get Yogurtland, But you score that goal, we'll get a toy. And she actually scored her first goal, I think like 2 weeks ago. So we went and she was super stoked. I'm pretty sure she is getting it now. Like, oh, okay, I gotta kick the ball in the net and then I'm gonna get a toy.
Okay. That's what life is. That's what adult life is. Like you get paid to create outcomes.
Yep.
You get rewarded. It's not just monetary pay, but you're gonna get social rewards. You're gonna have, especially for a man's life, what's more pathetic than a useless man? What's more pathetic than a guy that can't attain an outcome anywhere with any consistency? Is like that's the standard for like that. That's supposed to be okay. And I think it's a lifestyle choice. Like I'm not mad at the people that make my coffee. Like when I go to Starbucks, I'm happy there's somebody on the other side of the counter to take my order and make sure I get my coffee with no sugar and cream on the side. And if that's the place that person chose to be at in life, then like, okay. But I came from, it was American poverty. It wasn't third world poverty. And I've traveled to a lot of countries, so I've seen what real poverty looks like around the world. And I'm grateful I wasn't born in like a Brazilian favela or some shit, because that's a tough grind, that
Yep.
I have a lot of respect for those people that, both of us have some friends that came from that environment. And, that's tough.
Yep.
So I didn't have it that tough, but I had it about as shitty as you could have in America,
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't know, there's a lot of people that have better advantages than I did and didn't do shit with it. And I'm not mad at them, but I'm just like, I kind of feel bad for some of them. Like, really? Like, you didn't see that you could just do this and this, or you could have worked harder here, or, imagine you had some moments like that in life where you've seen people at one time that, you wish you had the opportunities they did, but they didn't do shit with it, and you did. You had that perseverance and that grind to be like, man, I'm not gonna mess up the chances that I get in life.
Opportunity, not so much. I remember being young and there was the spoiled kids, and I'm like, I wish I had the shit they had.
I see.
But at the same time, like, I feel like everything that I went through in life, like, I get what you're saying, like, about, like, I had a good upbringing, but yeah, there was some stuff crazy on, like, we lived in, like, Section 8 housing when I was younger. It was just me and my mom before my stepdad came along. And I just, he raised me. I call him dad. Like, I don't ever specify that, but that's, he is my stepdad. It was just my mom and I at the time, just she and I, and yeah, we were fucking poor, but I didn't really realize that. We lived in Section 8 housing and apartments in the ghetto in Wainaku, in Hilo. But I didn't even realize that because, like, I was just having fun with my cousins and whatever. But I think everything that I went through, life experiences in life, made me the person that I was, and kind of touching on what you're saying, like, yeah, maybe it wasn't like a certain opportunity, but yeah, I definitely was like, okay. Like, I remember being, when I graduated high school and I had to work and I was living on my own, I ended up moving to Oahu, had my own apartment, this and that. So I had f***ing bills. Hawaii is expensive. I'm 17, 18 years old and I'm working full time and, you know, like barely making ends meet. But I'm also the type of guy, like, I'm not, like, I have friends that still are living at home with their parents and they can go out and stuff. And I'm like, bro, like, I cannot, like, you don't understand. Like, I literally don't have the money to do that. And yeah, maybe if I wanted to, I could, but I didn't want to ever be like stressing, like, you know, like, how am I going to pay my bills? Which ended up happening anyway, because I ended up getting fired for a week from my job. Whole long story. And luckily, I ended up getting the job back with back pay for that week. They fired me, which is like a fuck you to them, like good try. But yeah, you know, like stressing, and I hated that feeling. But yeah, so like growing up the way I did, seeing my mom work hard, the value she instilled in me, like, you know, gave me that to be like, okay, I don't want to have to be worried and stressing and, you know, like, and, you know, there's people who literally have to worry about where their next meal is gonna come from. You know, like, I know a lot of people in Hawaii that are homeless, and it ain't by choice. It's just Hawaii can be rough.
Yeah, there's times I grew up that didn't have, you know, there wasn't food and bills weren't paid and things like that. And I sufficiently hated that it's like, whatever I got to do to go make things better, I'm gonna go do that.
Yeah.
And you know, that helped me to, you know, just deal with reality that, you know, sometimes you have some great victories in life and that's nice, but that's just not guaranteed tomorrow. Yeah, just because something went good for a period of time, don't mean stop working, doesn't mean stop learning. You know, so some of those times earlier in life have motivated me, like, keep learning, keep building your, you know, intellectual skills, keep building, you know, good social environment to have high quality people around you. I don't want to ask them for anything. I don't want anything from them per se, but, you know, just it's different when you hang around. Like, if you go to Extreme Couture and you hang around with the people that you're talking about over there that are serious people, somewhere consciously or subconsciously, you're like, all right, that's what the level is. You know, that you're not going to fall beyond that level hanging out with other people that are top competitors and, you know, serious and going for it. If you went to Bobo's gym where you'd be clearly the top guy in the gym, and, you know, by a long distance, might not work quite as hard over there, you know?
Yep.
So I don't want to be at Bobo's gym. I don't want to be at Bobo's School of Finance.
Yes, and it's what I always tell people too, is like, surround yourself with like-minded individuals, you know, like, surround yourself with people that are kind of like on the same path as you, because like, why, and especially to like the younger fighters, you know, like, a lot of times, so being from Hawaii, I'm like the hub, you know, like, a lot of the Hawaii fighters will come from Hawaii. And because I've set up, you know, like, shop here in Vegas, you know, so I opened that door for them, which is great. But then, like, some of the younger ones, like, will ask, like, oh, this, that. And I'm like, bro, first of all, like, if you want to do this, like, you want to fight, like, why don't you hang around the other people that do this? You know, like, you cannot come train hard and then the guys you hang around with want to go drink and party and whatever, which, you know, like, every now and then, yeah, okay. But if these guys are on a different path. They want to live the Vegas nightlife. They want to be in the industry. They want to do that every night. That's them. That's, hey, you know, good for them. But is that what you want? Because if you're just hanging around with them, it's going to be hard for you to be, when all of them, 4 or 5, whatever, even if it's just one, that is peer pressuring you. Come on, bro, let's just go. Like, just one drink, come on. And it turns into a whole night. And then you either don't show up to practice, or you kind of give good effort in practice because you're hanging or whatever it is, you know. So that's what I always tell these guys, like, surround yourself with like-minded individuals. Like, you can be friends with those guys, but like, hang out with these guys, and like, those guys that is your friends, like, that's not gonna not be your friends, but they have a place and time in your life, you know. Like, maybe once a week, or sorry, once a week, once a month, one weekend a month, you can go hang out with them, whatever. And then to the point where you realize, like, you know, like, because even I was there, you know, as you start getting older, and then you realize, like, I don't even need that, you know, like, I wanna fight, like, I I want to pursue this, you know, and along with fighting comes like this, you know, healthy lifestyle. Like, yeah, there's times to have fun and drink and whatever, but it sucks to be hanging and you got another, like you said, high level guy beating on your ass, and then you're like, fuck, I really should have not done that, you know. So yeah, and in any walks of life, you know, like even for your clients, why are they gonna go hang out with people that just blowing their money, lazy, don't want to put in the work? Like, just cut those guys.
You're gonna be like the people you spend time with.
Yep.
You're gonna be like, you know, that's not a choice. A human is a permeable membrane or an influenceable creature that. Man, you talked about the weight loss thing. Maybe, you know, last two thoughts maybe I'd share is echoing that. Is, you know, I've lost in 7-8 months. I lost 30 pounds of fat, gained 11 pounds of muscle, and you know, it's not even like a conscious effort so much with diet.
Trying. Yep.
It's just like you wake up every day, and I got 15, 20 days a month. I got, you know, Andrei Arlovsky or Frank Muir or Gilbert Burns or, you know, one of these type of guys. Jake Shields is hanging out in my living room like the night before. Say, hey, we're gonna start training at 12:30 tomorrow, you know, a little afternoon, and they're in the living room at 12:25, and you know, like literally, I wake up and it's time to, you know, have 500, 800 calories, not too much, but, you know, fuel for the day, but not too much food, and, you know, have a 45-minute break in there that I can digest a little bit while I do a few other things. And they're going to be in the living room at, you know, 5 minutes early. And am I going to tell Andre, you know, oh, hey, bro, you know, my tummy hurts a little bit. Maybe we shouldn't do this today. Or, you know, am I going to tell Horace Gracie, you know, hey, man, you know, whatever bullshit. Like, no, it's time to go. You know, it's time. So, you know, just having that, having those type of people around, or frankly, even just sitting at the dinner table together, you know, watching like, well, what do these guys eat? You know, when I'm spending more than half of my month with these people, what are they eating? What are their lifestyle habits? And, you know, just kind of by association, I wouldn't say that I spent any willpower or a lot of conscious thought on it, but just be like, it's real easy to be like, I don't need those last 200 calories on my plate. Or like, I don't need to eat, you know, for a couple hours before bedtime. And, you know, with the physical activity and just a few little shifts in thinking that way for not much effort, you know, putting on good muscle mass, you know, losing some fat. I wasn't so fat in the past, by the way, but during the COVID hysteria, when you said, you know, I was lifting weights, man, 4 days a week, like a religion, you know, like nothing would make me miss, you know. If I had to fly to Australia, no problem, but I'm going to go work out, take a shower, go to the airport, 30 hours of flights, and, you know, maybe work out again before I go to sleep. So I had a good regime like that, or routine like that for about 7.5 years. And then they closed all the gyms, and then that really messed things up for me. And that was a great financial opportunity that I made a lot of money. I multiplied my net worth during that time, and that was great. But it was very bad for my diet and exercise. So at that time, I was in my 40s. I was 40, and on a leg sled, I was putting up 1,100 pounds with good form. I can only do about 1,000, 1,020 right now. But so I'm getting back to that strength. But you know, for in your 40s, that ain't such a bad. Doing okay, not too weak.
Well, don't hang out with me and see how I eat, because I eat like a fucking savage.
I eat all kinds of shit, but just a little less of it.
Not so much bad stuff. I just eat a lot, and like I think sometimes that's why I work out so hard, why I train so hard, so I can eat.
It's
like,
working out for you, man.
Like I don't eat to fuel my training. I fucking train hard so I can eat after. Like I love, like, we're so spoiled here in Vegas. Korean barbecue buffet, sushi buffet. We got the strip buffets, crab legs. Like,
there's some of the best food in the world is right outside here. You know, Vegas has some of the best entertainment, some of the best nightlife, food, shopping. Not much else. Yeah. But it has the best in the world in those few categories. So it's easy to enjoy the food here.
And it's funny because the older I get and the more I start like traveling places, like it really makes it apparent. Like, and it's so I come from two places of, you know, like growing up in Hawaii, the food there is bomb. Like there's really good food in Hawaii. And then I came to fucking Vegas, and there's really good fucking food here in Vegas, and a lot of it. And then I went to like other places, and I'm like, you know, like for instance, Ireland. I love Ireland. To me, one of the most beautiful spots I've ever been to.
It's underrated, yeah.
but their food is terrible. The only thing I liked in Ireland was the breakfast and the full English breakfast or whatever. Like I could eat that. I wish they had that all day, the whole day. Then I could just eat that 3-4 times a day.
No fish and chips for you?
Fish and chips, that I can get down with, but some of the other stuff, I was like, dude, like, there's like no taste to this, you know? Like, sorry, Irish people and people from Ireland, but the food there that I had was terrible. And
That's two important things. What do you think about the local Hawaiian barbecue versus back home? Local in Vegas. So they have like, was it H&L something?
No, L&L.
L&L, right. So they got the local Hawaiian barbecue. I get like the pulled pork and rice here and the hot sauce on it.
So here's the funny thing is that, and I discovered this when I moved to San Diego when I was right after high school. I was 17. When I went out there, I went to a JUCO. So my friends were like, oh, let's go eat Hawaiian barbecue. And I'm like, okay, like, what do you mean, like, Hawaiian barbecue? No, let's go Hawaiian barbecue. And I was like, okay, like, I don't know, like, when I think about barbecuing back home, we're trying some steaks, you know, like some pulehu ribs, throw some fish on the grill, you know, like that type of stuff. Like, we're gonna barbecue, have a barbecue. So I'm like, what are you talking about, Hawaiian barbecue? Like Hawaiian food? Like, you don't barbecue Hawaiian food. That's why, you know, like, it takes hours to prepare. Like kalua pig and stuff. That's like the pulled pork.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, and traditionally that's cooked in an imu
30 hours or something overnight in the sand.
There's cheating ways to do it that come out just as good. You can do it in a crock pot, slow cooker. You can do it in an instant pot with some liquid smoke. Comes out really good, actually. But anyway, I was like, Hawaiian barbecue. I was like, all right. So they're like, yeah, Friday, let's go. So I'm like, okay. So we drive to this spot. We pull up. Sure enough, huge words, Hawaiian barbecue. I'm like, what is this? We get closer. I see right above it, L&L. I'm like, whoa, wait, this is L&L? I'm like, bro, like L&L is not Hawaiian barbecue. So L&L's in Hawaii is like kind of like Panda Express almost. Like they have like the window where you can get like that different type of like American Chinese food. But then they also have plate lunches of like local food that we have in Hawaii, like chicken katsu, chicken cutlet, curry, beef stew, that type of stuff. Teriyaki chicken, those, you know, type of things. But anyway, it was a local Samoan lady from Hawaii who opened it up, which it was genius marketing for her. They marketed it, because I guess it is L&L Hawaiian barbecue. I never really noticed it back home because we just call it L&L's. But if you look at the cups and stuff, it says L&L Hawaiian barbecue. Nobody ever calls it Hawaiian barbecue. Nobody ever says, oh, let's go to Hawaiian barbecue or L&L Hawaiian barbecue. In Hawaii, it's just L&L's. Let's go L&L's. Okay, cool. But she marketed in Hawaiian barbecue to get all the people like, oh, Hawaiian food, you know. And then it was just a L&L franchise that she had bought. But the great thing about what she did was on Fridays, she actually did put Hawaiian food, like, you know how they got the windows in the L&L? Like the glass where you can choose, like, okay, I want that, or like when, like kind of how when you go to
I just
Pandas.
get it delivered. I get the kalua pork and rice.
So okay, so similar like when you go to Pandas, you know how they have the glass and then you choose like, oh, I want chow mein, rice, blah blah blah, whatever. So it's like that. But in hers on Fridays, she puts actual Hawaiian food in there, lau lau, kalua pig, lomi salmon, you know, all these things, and it's fucking bomb. I'm like, dude, this is the best L&L I've ever been to. You know, like smokes all the L&Ls in Hawaii. Like L&Ls in Hawaii can't even touch this lady's spot. But yeah, so we do have that back home. So
I love the kalua pork. I've stopped in like random people's yards. You know what I'm talking about? Like on the islands and like Maui or Big Island. It'd be like a random lady cooking shit in her yard. And you know, that's like a restaurant. And I've stopped and had some of the best meals at like little things like that. You get some pulled pork and man, it's been great. So once in a while as a holdover, I'll get that L&L pork while I'm out here, and I enjoy it, but it's not to me, the real Hawaiian stuff that you could literally pull up in a random yard and get a bomb-ass meal over there that it's really good. Last one. You know, you say yourself, you know, you've been a top contender and, you know, top 10, top 15 ranked for years of your life. You fought literally some of the best champions and toughest dudes ever. And you've been around a lot of fantastic training partners. You had, some, amazing coaches, amazing training partners, Chuck, Randy, I imagine over the years you spent time around Randy. Tell Randy I said hi, he knows who I am. What do you think you could have done these things by yourself? I've asked over 100 champions in different sports, people with Olympic medals, people with, fighting belts, Super Bowl rings. I asked over 100 people, and not one of them told me they could, have these high-level outcomes around by themselves.
No, definitely not. And you know what? That's the big reason why I moved from Hawaii was to come here, is because it was harder in Hawaii, because in Hawaii everything is expensive and everybody had like families and whatnot, obligations that came first. So everybody had to work a full-time job, and then we would get to train. So it's not like how like I said, we're spoiled here. The guys here, like even the young up and coming fighters, they don't realize how spoiled they are because they didn't have to go through that like struggle back home. They get to train twice a day out here, and then maybe work on the weekend. It's cheaper here to live.
Yeah.
So you don't have to work as much. Also, there's way more people in the gyms here. So there's always like, even if like say you had a job that ran the same time as a class every week or on a certain day, it wouldn't be hard to find some training partners to throw something together, and be like, hey, you guys want to meet up at, I don't know, a random time, 12:30 in the middle of the day, which is, there's nothing really going on, but you guys want to meet up at 12:30, get these rounds in or this and that. That's not hard to find. Back home, that was really hard. Like I couldn't I couldn't make a practice. I couldn't be like, hey, you guys want to meet up at so-and-so? Everybody had to work, so it's like, you guys are either doing it like way after or whatever, which wouldn't even make sense, because if it's after work, then you probably could have made the practice anyway, right? But obviously something came up. So that's one of the biggest reasons why I moved there. And I definitely 100% could not have, done it without myself. Like one of the first persons that I feel like I would not be here without is Brandon Wolf. And he was my coach and like mentor, big brother back home. He was the head of our old team, MMAD. And, I easily I was good and doing this and that, but he really pointed me in the right direction, structured me, came up with that plan for us, winning in Hawaii, moving to Vegas, go train at Extreme Couture and this and that. So, he was one of the first people. And then another one of them is once I got here was Ray Sefo. He's been my head coach, my brother, and almost like a older brother / father figure to me. I definitely wouldn't be where I am, without him. So yeah, I have no delusion that I could have done this by myself, nor would I have wanted to. I would love the friendships that I made, the relationships that I made, the bonds, it reminds me of that camaraderie of how it was in high school, playing football with the boys, you go to the gym with the boys, you train, you beat the shit out of each other, and then after that you just kind of laugh about it. And then a few times a year you're in a fight camp, you get to go to war. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, man. I think it makes it easier. I have 3 mentoring courses I teach, one about entrepreneurship, one about real estate, one about the stock market. And that same sort of camaraderie that the people have with each other, where they'll be maybe the most ambitious person in their group of people. And they feel a little lonely about that they know they could do better, they want to do better, but maybe their friends at home don't have that same motivation, or their coworkers don't have that same motivation. And that same sort of environment happens there, where they get to be with 80 or 100 and something other people that are serious and ambitious, and chat with each other and be on the calls with me and learn from each other and learn from me. And that same type of environment happens there, and it makes it easier for it literally is more fun and makes it easier to have better outcomes. Or when I think about that in my training, which I don't mean to compare to yours, I'm a basically retired business. I don't have to do anything for money anymore. That I'm just for fun. I go get beat up by professional fighters, and I'm like, well, I'll be able to defend myself against whatever normal things would happen in a street environment, But I'm not good with just little hobbies. So whatever I do, I can't help myself. So anyway, being in that environment, being around, pro fighters and, world champions, it's fun. I'm learning so much. And without additional effort, I can't think of a better way that you could improve your skills when you're around top level guys.
Yeah.
That's how they lived their life. You pick up those little details and little habits, and you're like, well, it doesn't make sense that you would do something different, or you wouldn't go back to an inferior way of doing things after you learned a better way of doing things. So I think it's been vital for me to be around other high level people in business when I wanted to learn things. I think anything new you want to learn, if you put yourself around the best people you have access to, and makes it a lot more fun, you get a lot better results. And, life is short, man. If you're willing to settle, you don't want to be one of those guys moping on the bench.
Yep.
You don't want to be one of those guys. So if you could do better, let me know. Happy to help people that are serious. Brad, thank you so much for spending your time and sharing some of your life and your wisdom and experiences. I really enjoyed getting to know you a bit, and thank you for sharing that with my audience as well.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks, bro.
Thanks, Derek. Appreciate you.
Some people are confused. They say, Derek, what is the 10 Commandments of Wealth? Not the 10 maybes of wealth. It's the 10 core things that you're going to need to know about in detail if you'd like to accumulate significant wealth in your lifetime. Click this link up here to find more information exactly what is the 10 Commandments of Wealth, how is the program structured, what's inside of it, how are you going to benefit from it. If you're doing well already and you'd like to do better, click that link and find out more. There's over 100 hours of content in this program. I've interviewed dozens of world champions that shared what it took for them to win, to be the top Hall of Fame athletes in their respective areas. And I brought a lot of other superstars in there from business, from legal, people that are real world entrepreneurs that made serious money, as I have myself. We all share with you what are the foundations you're going to need to know if you want to be successful yourself. Be a chooser, not a loser. Click that link, find out more. I'll see you inside.